All right, buddy, you're live.
Perfect. Hey, guys, glad to be here for 15 minutes of training with you guys for everyone this week. And I'm gonna start out kind of like I do every week and talk to you guys about the huge benefit of doing business the way that we do it. I mean, the marketing and partnership that we have with David Allen Capital is extraordinary. We give you an opportunity to have that 100% online application process. Again, we're providing you guys with what I think is the #1 success tool in America. And it's not only what I think, it's what small business people have been polled and said, and that's working capital. As you know, you get paid every single day. You get paid a commission on whatever gets funded. All you got to do is get the word out, let people know about it, and understand that what's going to happen when you get a client, and most of the time they're going to come back 4 to 6 times in order to get additional funding. Have lots of that happen this week. And because of the opportunity that we have on this platform, because that's really what Bank Breezy is, we can give you an opportunity to make full-time income on a very part-time basis if you like. We give incentives to your client base to incentivize them to do business with us and actually tell other people about the opportunity, and you guys are taking advantage of that. But today's 15-minute training with Wade is going to be about personal and business background reports, past defaults, and a couple other issues that seem to be confusing a lot of you. I get some emails sometimes that are angry, saying, well, wait a minute, we went all the way to the finish line here. They signed everything, and now you're telling me that you're not going to fund them because of background. Well, as we tell you in several trainings that you can go back and listen to, some of the lender partners do the background and everything up front, so they don't have to go through the whole process. That's the most expensive part of underwriting. And some wait until the very last. I mean, they assume that what the client's telling us is accurate. They're stellar people, and then they go run these background reports. Below is a sample of what I get and my team receives from some of the lender partners. And this is one with, of course, everything X'd out. And they tell us that they're declining this because of legal issues, whether it's default, liens, judgments, bankruptcy. They don't go into a lot of detail in some of the situations, but what they did here is they let me know these were criminal filings. They just don't meet the risk parameters. And most of the time, these criminal filings are going to be dealing with something egregious. So I don't really know what the final issue is. Sometimes whenever I get challenged by a rep, I'll call and they'll tell me what it is, and then at that point I really can't tell the rep any more than what I've already told them is that they're just not eligible for funding. The file is going to be declined if any of the following issues in the prospective client's background: criminal charges for theft or any other kind of financial crime, even if it's a misdemeanor of writing bad checks. If that's happened over the last 7 to 10 years, the most likely almost everybody's going to turn them down. Other criminal filings involving any kind of egregious acts like murder, harm to children, spousal abuse, kidnapping, anything like that, they're going to turn them down. If they are way behind on child support, a lot of the lenders just won't. It's just a principle. They just won't fund anybody that, I don't care if it's you tell me it's a business account, they shouldn't feel that way, but they do. And then if they found any kind of personal or business bankruptcy over the last 7 years, and really it could be as much as 10 years, depending on whether there were any MCAs involved in that bankruptcy proceeding. The file will be declined if they find any current business has history of changing bank accounts to avoid overdrafts. In other words, if they had another business under another name, but they were the owners, it's going to usually pop up that they defaulted because they changed bank accounts because they didn't want any more drafts coming out of it, and that's the default. If they change their bank accounts recently to an online bank like Lily or Found or some other online banks, you're just not going to get these guys funded because a lot of these online banks don't allow daily drafts to come out, or even weekly drafts in a lot of cases. There are some that are exceptions, like they'll take Square and some others, but there are certain ones that you just can't get funding because they don't cooperate with the ACH network. If the business has changed partners because of past legal issues, just avoid it. I've had that happen quite often where maybe the son got in trouble and he defaulted, and then the mom or the dad opens up a new business down the street, and yet it's really the son running it, even though it's in their name. They catch this every time. If their business licenses have been revoked, or they're not current on the Secretary of State, in most cases, we can get those things resolved. They'll just go pay the cost of the business license unless it's revoked for bad business practices. Then, of course, we wouldn't be able to fund them. But we look at every Secretary of State, or the underwriters do anyway, and I usually do before I send the underwriter all the final details of what they need to do to submit the acceptance of the funding. But if the Secretary of State's not valid, then it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to decline the file. But what it does mean is that somebody's got to make that valid. And usually it's just because they just didn't file that year. A lot that happens all the time, and that's not as big a deal. As far as if they accept funding from a competitor over the last 30 days, and this is all found through the decision logic process, and that's why they do the bank verification. If the client has taken funding during that period of time, obviously we didn't know about it. For example, today is the 9th of the month. There's no bank statements here for August through the 9th. So when someone gets funded, then we are going to do a decision logic. They're going to look back and they're going to see that, hey, this person got funded just last week. And if they have received funding from anybody, they're going to have to wait 30 to 45 days because the criteria used to give them the offer that they have was based on them not having another position in there. If the client lowered their payment with their current lender provider, that tells our lender partners that the client really can't afford another MCA position. And that is another reason for a decline. And some of you get upset about that. Well, they declined it because they had a flood in their business. Well, it doesn't really matter why they did it. If it's still low, if they lowered their payment because of a flood, it doesn't matter. If that payment's still lowered, they're not going to get anybody to fund them because it tells them they really can't even afford the payment they got. So why should we be in another position behind that payment? If they have any kind of past default in our space, it's going to be declined. If he defaults and starts a new business, he's most likely going to find out that he's tied to that old business, because the defaults don't just go with their business. It follows you as a person around too. And it's going to be declined. And if the business owner defaults and then a relative reopens for him, and yet he's really, we'll know if he's in the background running it, it most likely would be declined there as well. So those are just some of the things that happen at the end when we do these background checks and you do the decision logics. And it does happen, not often, but one just happened here this morning. And it's going to be a consistent thing. These are non-collateralized signature funding. So there really isn't, other than filing UCC filings on them and suing them and that sort of thing, it's kind of hard to ever collect this money. This week's funding companies that I want to spotlight for you, we got a catering and restaurant group that we just funded yesterday for $200,000 in Arizona. This is an interesting situation where I'm not sure every lender partner would have taken this without having someone like Bank Breezy going and digging. I was able to go and speak to these people. I knew it was going to be an issue because if you go on to the on the web, on the internet, you'll see that they are closed permanently. Well, there's a reason behind that. And a lot of underwriters won't even look at that reason. So I went ahead and had my team research everything, speak in depth with the owners, get a whole bunch of information and submitted it all with the application. And we were able to get them done in 2 days. Would have gotten done in 1 day, but we missed the cutoff time for them to do all the signatures because it was 3 owners. We got a child care facility in Illinois that got 30,000 that's going to be used to, oh, by the way, the 200,000 is going to be used because of they got lots of contracts coming in. Man, these things are good looking contracts for catering. And they're not a one-time catering contract on most of the cases. They're going to be catering for all the events that happen at these municipalities and these large corporate jobs that they have. In the child care facility, they're using it to expand a business with dozens of new clients coming in. You know, school year starting, they just need more money for more supplies that they have, that they use there. We got a local home builder, they got 40,000. He needed to buy some window units. A gutter company, they needed some installation equipment for putting the gutter systems in. And then there was this one that was actually done last week, and I forgot to put it on. It's an oil field company. They got $60,000. They needed some type of equipment that works on the rigs. We normally don't fund the oil industry if it's without some really good financials. We were able to get this. We initially gave them 100,000, but after the underwriter, the senior one looked at it, they dropped it to 60, but they could still use those funds. So David, that kind of wraps up what I've got to talk about. I'll be glad to take any kind of questions that anybody may have.
Great stuff, buddy. Great stuff. Morgan, why don't you lead up the questions?
Sounds good. We've got one hand up here. Marnika, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, good morning, Wade, David, Morgan, everybody else. So when you're funding, do you ask them what they are using the funds for? Because you mentioned that they needed to buy this or that or the other. So you all ask them what they're using the funding for?
Not initially. They put it on the application of what they
Okay.
want. Yeah, but before, when we make the offers and I talk to them, I get as much information as I can, because remember, an underwriter is going to do a funding call, and I already have them very well schooled on what to say when an underwriter calls them. They're not, the underwriters are not your friends. They're good people. They're great, but their main purpose is to find out anything that maybe the junior underwriters had missed. And so when they're talking to them, I don't want them to say something crazy like has happened before, where they say, you know what, I'm going to probably take 2 weeks off in the next couple months, or maybe a month off, just to get geared up. That makes everybody nervous when you're not at your business and there's no revenue coming in. So we do a lot of conversation with them, a lot more than what the agents realize, because I already know what's in store. And if I can get all those answers up front without even knowing I'm even asking the questions, it really works out well for us.
Okay, and then also you mentioned that you check all Secretary of State, and if there are any type of defaults at all, that the file will decline?
Well, first of all, you don't see defaults at the Secretary of State. What you see is whether or not they're active. They could have their SOS revoked, and we just they have to be active in that particular state.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for your questions.
Okay.
All right. Next up we have, oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting a call. Next up we've got Jimmy T. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. I have a couple of questions regarding background checks. But let's start with the easy one first. You mentioned that if they have an online bank like Lily or Founder, you cannot provide the funding for them. that true for all online banks or only certain ones? And let's say if we come across a business owner that currently has an online bank account and we advise them to move to, a regular bank account, is there like a wait period before they can apply for the funding?
Well, let me answer that two ways. Number one, we don't just decline them on our end if they're online. We always submit them to all the underwriters, and you never know, something could change and they will take it. I know certain banks they won't, but they're just because they have an online bank doesn't mean we're not going to get them funded. It just depends on the underwriters and the company. Number two, when it comes to online banks and you tell them to go change their bank, that bank's got to be changed for 3 months. We got to have 3 months of bank statements with another brick and mortar bank. So all online banks are not negative, but many are.
Okay. My second question, as you mentioned that if a partner had the previous legal issue, and the reason I bring this up because this is something I came across a number of years ago. One of the business partners, did something that was not good and got caught for that. But the other partner was totally unaware of what was happening. So on something like that, and then of course, the partner that did the illegal thing was told to take a hike and never commit. So they're pretty much again. So is there a possibility for the other partner to appeal or make it, ask for it to make a statement or something like that?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, if the partner is no longer part of the business and they just can give us that information, they won't be held up. It won't be held against them. If the partner is no longer there and the partner is not an owner any longer and no longer there, we can bypass that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have James. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yes, sir. I have a question on this one is about instant funding. If a client, it's my understanding, they have to link their checking account or business account with the bank plan. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Can you give a short description of how that the process of doing that for a client to link their account?
Sure. When they get to that section of the application process and it says link your bank, then they've got right up there on their phone or computer or whatever, it's got a section that they complete and it'll pop up and give them all the options of what banks. And when they start typing it in, as a matter of fact, before they even get through, it'll go to all the types that match what they're typing in. And then they're able to click a link and give authority for it to be done.
Okay.
It's really simple. It's pretty simple.
Yes. Okay. I'm sure it was. May I ask a question about health share? One question.
About what?
Health share
No,
or
sir.
health plan?
Not on this call. I don't. know
Okay.
anything
Okay.
about
That's
any of
fine.
that
I'll find
stuff.
out.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes. I thank you.
Yep, feel free to send that into support, James, support@David
Thank
Allen
you.
Capital, and we'll help
Thank
you
you.
out. Corey, you are our last question. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. All right. I had a question. Like, I'm stuck, right? I don't know if you could just give me a little bit of insight as where to go, because I have one person that's ready to get funding. They were like approved. I think they just have to send one more document. And like, it's like it was a low loan, I guess, and like, he didn't really like look at it like I seen it. Cause like, I can't even get a loan right now because I just started my business. So it's like, he said that he could get, it was a low loan and he's been stalling on it. And I've been like consistent with him and trying not to give up, because once I get one, I know how it is. But I just want to know if you could give me some insight on like where to go with it now. Cause it's like my idea to him was like, just, pay itself back, and then, you know what I mean, just do it like that because he's so worried about mixing his life up with it. So
Well, you're talking about the instant funding up to 10,000, right?
I'm probably, because it was a low. Yes, I'm certain. Yeah.
Well, he knows what to do because he gets a text and he gets an email, and they're consistent and they work that deal. And if David wants to hop on and add anything to it, but I can promise you 99% of the time that 100% of the time they've gotten an email or a text of what to do.
No, he does have that. I'm talking about as far as like, if I could give him some insight as far as like what to do next. If he gets this loan, it's my advice was to just pay it, you know, because he's like, oh well, I already have a lot of bills and stuff. And I said, well, just it's it's a low
Corey.
loan, but you're
Yeah,
fortunate.
Corey,
Yes.
let me jump in, Corey, real quick.
Yes, sir.
If he's not feeling he's got a use of those funds that can drive the growth of his business, he shouldn't take the money. Because unless he's got a reason, if he's saying I've already got enough bills and I don't want to take on more money,
I don't
he may
necessarily.
not have a. So I want to finish my point. Just because if he doesn't have a reason to take that, let's say it's $1,000 and turn it into 5, he shouldn't take the money because he's going to pay back a lot of. It's going to cost him a lot.
Yes,
So
sir.
this isn't like getting a credit card just to have it to build your credit. I mean, you're paying a lot of money to get money with us because you have a strategy to implement. So unless he's got a strategy, I would just ask him, what is your use of funds? Do you have an idea? And if he goes, I don't know yet, well, let's start thinking of ideas. So how you can help him is help get creative on his business on what he might be able to use that small advance for to help drive his sales, help him pay things off. So I'd get creative from a business perspective rather than the money on what he might be able to do for his business to grow the sales.
No, man, I appreciate that because I needed that. But I think it's something other than, because he has a business. He has a barbershop. Okay. So it's nothing like it's something other than that's the distraction. I know what it is, but it's just like I'm having a tough time with it because he knows what to do with it. He has a barbershop. So that's what I'm trying to say is like, I know.
But Corey,
Yeah.
I've got a business. If you offer me $100,000 right now, I wouldn't take it. I don't need it.
Yeah.
I don't. So
Yeah, but I'm
if-
in Florida. And I'm from Maine and I'm here alone. So it's people here. They have a hard time trusting people. I'm being honest with you, sir. It's been tough on me.
So I'm not saying it's not tough. I'm saying in this
Mhm.
particular case, we never tell people if they don't have a desire to take the money because they've already got a good idea his barbershop may not have an idea. He may not know what to do with the money to make it bring in more. So talking about what could you bring to your barbershop to increase your sales? What could you do to drive sales? Could you create a marketing campaign? Could you do an online system? Do you have any ideas? Have you tried things or have you not done things because of the money? Maybe this 1,002, whatever he was offered, could help grow that. So that's really all you can do because Wade's team, me, you, we don't want to close the funds. We want to make them available to people who've got good opportunities to put to work. Cool. Thank you, buddy.
That's all we've got on questions today.
All right.
Cool. Great. Thanks, Wade. Appreciate you, buddy.
Yep, man. Thanks
All
again. See
Friday,
you guys
everybody.
next week.